All right, so this is the formula that we're going to use right here. So cosine of 45 degrees times cosine of 30 degrees minus sine of 45 degrees times sine of 30 degrees. All right, so that's step one. Make sure you pick the correct formula, and then we just substitute the angles in for A, and then the angles in for B. All right, now the second part deals with the unit circle. So now we go to our unit circle and we simplify each of these trig functions down. All right, so cosine of 45 degrees is going to be what? What is it? Root 2 over 2. So write root 2 over 2, and it's times. All right, cosine of 30 degrees is what? Okay, root 3 over 2. All right, so I'm just going to put that in parentheses because I have to use order of operations, and I'm going to have to multiply those two together. All right, minus. All right. And then sine of 45 is what? Root 2 over 2 times sine of 30. So that's 1/2. All right, so now we're going to multiply the two fractions together. So root 2 over 2 times root 3 over 2. When we multiply fractions, we can multiply straight across. With radicals, the numbers underneath don't have to be the same. You can multiply numbers underneath together and numbers outside together. Right? So this just becomes root 6 over 4, because 2 times 2 is 4, minus, okay, root 2 over 2 times 1/2 becomes root 2 over 4. Now the denominators are the same, so we can combine these together as one single fraction. We carry the denominator across. Now with adding and subtracting radicals, they have to be the same numbers underneath to add them, and they're not. So all we do is write root 6 minus root 2. So this is the exact answer for cosine of 75 degrees. Root 6 minus root 2 over 4. All right, number 2, sine of 135 degrees minus 120 degrees. All right, so now we go to our difference formula for sine. Right, so this is the one we're going to look at now. So this one, sine of the first times cosine of the second minus cosine of the first angle times sine of the second angle. All right, so sine 135 times cosine 120 minus cosine 135 times sine 120. All right, so sine 135 times cosine 120 minus cosine 135 times sine 120. All right, so now we go to our unit circle, find the values of each of those angles. All right, so sine of 135 degrees is what? Root 2 over 2. And it's positive, because 135 degrees is positive for sine in quadrant 2. Times, and then cosine 120, okay, that's going to be negative 1/2. Right, and then we're going to go minus cosine 135, okay, negative root 2 over 2, times sine of 120. So that's positive root 3 over 2. All right, so now we'll simplify this down. All right, so multiplying root 2 over 2 times negative 1/2 becomes negative root 2 over 4. Okay, minus negative root 2 over 2 times root 3 over 2 becomes negative root 6 over 4. Now we have a double negative here, so we can make it plus plus. Same denominator, carry it across. Negative root 2 plus root 6 becomes negative root 2 plus root 6. All right, so on 3, they just tell you find cosine negative 30 degrees. So again, we're using sum or difference. So this time we have to break it up. We have to use angles that are on the unit circle, and we need 2 angles that either add or subtract, okay? So when you add them or subtract them, you're going to get negative 30 degrees. All right, so what 2 angles could we use? If you keep the number smaller, it's a little easier. 2 angles that add or subtract to negative 30 degrees. What are 2 angles? Yeah.
If you take 30 and minus it by 60.
Perfect. Good. So we can break this up as 30 degrees minus 60 degrees. When we combine those, that's negative 30. All right. So then we're using the cosine with subtraction to expand this out. Right, so cosine with subtraction, that means we're using this one, cosine of the first, cosine of the second, plus sine of the first, and sine of the second. So there's our setup. Now we go to our unit circle. All right, so cosine 30 degrees is what? Okay, good, root 3 over 2 times cosine 60, 1/2, right, plus sine of 30, 1/2 times cosine 60, cosine 60 is 1/2. All right, so multiplying this is root 3 over 4. Something doesn't look right. Sine, thank you. Yeah, something didn't look right there. Sine. There we go. All right, so sine 60, that's root 3 over 2. There we go. So root 3 over 4. All right, so when we're adding these together, the denominator is the same, so that goes across. The numerators, we can actually add those together because the numbers underneath are the same. So root 3 plus root 3 is 2 root 3s. And then we can simplify the 2 and the 4. And so we get radical 3 over 2. Now, when they give us a radian, 11 pi over 12, it's going to be easier if you convert it to degrees and work with degrees. Because again, we got to find two angles that add or subtract. That's going to equal whatever 11 pi over 12 is. So how do we change radians into degrees? What do we multiply by? Yeah. Yeah, 180 over pi, right? So we're going to multiply by 180 over pi to convert this. All right, so we do 11 times 180 divided by 12. That's 165 degrees. All right, so now we want to break up 165 degrees, two angles that add or subtract the 165, and they have to be on the unit circle. What is it?
45.
Okay, good. So you could do 120 plus 45 or 45 plus 120. It doesn't matter the order. The answer will be the same at the end. All right, so now we're using sine with plus. So that's the top one. So sine times cosine plus cosine times sine. All right, so simplifying this down, sine 45, root 2 over 2. Cosine 120, negative a half. Cosine 45, root 2 over 2. Sine 120, root 3 over 2. Right, so multiplying these together, that's negative radical 2 over 4 plus root 6 over 4 combines to negative root 2 plus root 6 over 4. So you're going to see these same values just keep repeating, radical 2s, radical 6s, and 4s. All right, so now let's do a tangent problem. So we have 105 degrees, so we've got to break that up. So what two angles add or subtract to give us 105 that we could use? Okay, good. So 60 degrees plus 45 degrees is 105 degrees. All right, so now we're going to use the tangent formula for plus. All right, so tangent of the first angle, 60 degrees, plus tangent of 45 degrees, divided by 1 minus tangent 60 degrees times tangent 45 degrees. All right, so now we're going to simplify each one. All right, so this is where you need to know your tangent values on the unit circle. All right, so what's tangent of 60? So it's root 3. Plus tangent of 45. It's tangent of 45. 1. Divided by 1 minus tangent 60. It's root 3 again. Times tangent 45, which is 1 again. We can multiply the root 3 and the 1 together. That's just going to stay root 3. So we have root 3 plus 1 over 1 minus root 3. All right, you can't cancel anything out, so please don't cancel radical 3's out or 1's or anything like that. Now, we do want to simplify this. We don't want to leave a radical in the denominator. So this is how you're going to get rid of the radical. We're going to use a concept from last semester when we were in complex numbers. That's the imaginary numbers. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. So the conjugate is whatever the denominator is, we just change the sign of this term right here. So this just does the opposite sign is what we're going to change it to. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 1 plus radical 3. Okay, because the denominator is 1 minus radical 3. So this is called the conjugate. All right, so this is where we double distribute. I'll do it underneath so we don't run out of room. All right, so this just involves multiplication now. All right, so radical 3 times 1, I'll do the top. Radical 3 times 1 is radical 3. Radical 3 times radical 3 is radical 9, which is just 3. Now we'll take the 1 and distribute. 1 times 1 is 1. And then 1 times radical 3 is plus radical 3. All right, now when we do the bottom, we're going to multiply it out, but we don't have to do all the work. All you have to do is on the bottom, because these are conjugates of each other, if we were to multiply all this out, the middle terms are always going to end up canceling out. So all you have to do is multiply the first terms together and the last terms together. That's it. All right, so multiplying 1 times 1, that's 1. And multiplying negative radical 3 times positive radical 3 is negative 3. All right, simplifying this fraction, on top, radical 3 plus radical 3 is 2 radical 3's. 3 plus 1 is 4. On the bottom, 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Now the last thing we have to do is look, because we have 3 numbers on the outside here, we can divide them all by negative 2. So divide by negative 2. All right, so we're going to get negative radical 3 minus 2 over 1, or just negative radical 3 minus 2. All right. So the only reason why we're dividing now is because there's these 3 numbers, you can divide them all by the same number. You divide them all by 2, but because we have a negative, we're going to divide by negative 2, and that gets rid of that negative option. All right, so the tangent ones are usually the hardest because it's the most amount of work. All right, so let's do one more tangent. So tangent pi over 12. So let's convert it to degrees. So what's pi over 12 in degrees? 15 degrees. All right, so now we're going to break it up into two angles that add or subtract to 15 degrees. Yeah, 45 minus 30. All right, so now we're doing tangent with subtraction. All right, so tangent of 45 degrees minus tangent of 30 degrees divided by 1 plus tangent 45 times tangent 30. All right, so make sure you're showing the steps, because if all you do is give the answer, I know some of your calculators will give you the exact answer, but if you don't show the steps, I can't give you credit, right? Because the calculator is doing the work, not you. So be careful with your calculators. All right, so now we just simplify using the unit circle. So tangent 45 is 1. Tangent 30 is root 3 over 3. And then divided by 1 plus tangent 45 is 1 again, times tangent 30 is root 3 over 3 again. All right, so this is 1 minus root 3 over 3 divided by 1 plus root 3 over 3. All right, so what we're going to do is get rid of this complex fraction. Okay, we have a complex fraction here. We're going to keep this main fraction bar. So to get rid of these complex fractions, you're going to multiply everything by whatever the denominator is. In this case, it's 3. So we're going to multiply this by 3, this by 3, and by doing it, we can cross cancel, and that gets rid of the complex fraction. Multiply this by 3 and this by 3, same thing. So multiplying by 3 gets rid of the complex fraction. So as long as you multiply every single term by the same thing, then it's legal to do it. Okay, so you're just multiplying everything by 3. So that becomes 3 minus root 3 over 3 plus root 3. Helps if you put your phone away and pay attention to saying it. All right, so then just like the last problem, we have a radical on the bottom. So here we're going to multiply top and bottom by 3 minus radical. Okay, that's the conjugate of 3 plus radical. 3 minus radical. There's a minus sign in there. All right, so we're going to double distribute on top. So that's 9 minus 3 root 3. That's distributing 3 over. Now we'll distribute the negative root 3. So that's negative 3 root 3 plus 3. On the bottom, we just have to multiply the first terms together, so that's 9, and the last terms together. That's minus 3. Radical 3 times negative radical 3 is negative radical 9, which is minus 3. All right, so now we simplify this. Combine like terms. 9 plus 3 is 12. Negative 3 root 3 minus 3 root 3 is minus 6 root 3. On the bottom, 9 minus 3 is 6. All right, I have these three numbers on the outside. I can divide them all by 6. So that becomes 2 minus root 3 over 1, which is just 2 minus root 3. All right, so now on number 7, we're simplifying cosine of x plus 90 degrees. So we're just going to go to the cosine formula for plus. X acts like A and 90 degrees acts like B in the formula. So you're just going to expand this out. All right, so it'll be cosine of x times cosine of 90 degrees minus sine of x times sine of 90 degrees. So cosine x doesn't simplify, but cosine 90 degrees does. So what's cosine of 90 degrees? 0 minus sine x doesn't simplify. Sine 90 does though. So what's sine of 90? 1. Remember PEMDAS, multiplication has to be done first. So cosine x times 0 is 0 minus sine x times 1 is sine x. 0 minus sine x is negative sine x. All right, so go ahead and try number 8 and 9. They're similar. Just pick the correct formula. The first term is your A. The second term is your B in the formula. No, because you can find these on the unit circle. Yeah, that's why. Yes. All right, and the last one, I want you to add this problem at the bottom of the notes. We'll call it number 10. All right, so on this problem, you're going to rewrite it as a single trig expression. So what they've done was they've expanded it out using a sum or difference formula. You have to figure out which formula they used and then condense it. So instead of expanding it out, we're going to condense it down to one single trig expression. All right, so since it says sine cosine plus cosine sine, you can see that it's the sine with the plus. So that means it's 20 degrees plus 50 degrees, which is sine 70 degrees.